Welcome back to Beyond the Book, the podcast where children's book authors share their stories and where writers thinking about publishing come to learn about self-publishing journeys. Today, I'm excited to welcome Jennifer Randazzo, a children's book author from Pennsylvania, work whose work bridges faith, family, and friendship across generations. Her heartfelt books, The Empathetic Elephant, Fully Rely on God, which her book on the front of it is F.R.O.G, Grandpa and Lewy, aren't just stories, they're conversation starters that inspire compassion, unity, and empathy in young readers. She also has Love Like Jesus. I love that title. Jennifer and I also share the same illustrator, which makes today's chat very special to me. Watch until the end. Jennifer is going to share her best advice for new writers. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, JoAnn. Thanks for having me.
Let's hop right into the questions, Jennifer. We've got quite a bit to talk about today. What inspired you to begin writing children's books? And what was your very first story that set your journey in motion, whether that's a published book or maybe a non-published book?
Thanks. So my journey began with a family event. My dad had Lewy body dementia, and there were no resources for my kids. It was back in 2003, and really we couldn't come across anyone who really had ever heard of the disease, much less any resources for it. So seeing how that affected my kids and their relationship, Lewy body dementia is a disease that is like our Alzheimer's and Parkinson's together. So the mind and the body are both affected. That led me to write my first story because after my dad had passed and I would see other families going through this, I realized that there still weren't any resources for families. And I took a little bit of a story that I had written just for my kids and decided to turn it into a book and publish it. And that's when my love for children's books publishing began.
I love that. I keep saying every story is around us, and we can take heartfelt stories like family members. We can take situations like I did with my grandkids and turn them into books. You know, for people out there listening and wanting to write a book, your story is everywhere around you. Jennifer, didn't you find that once you wrote that first book, the other ones just naturally came?
Yes. I always tell people if I had to sit down to write a book, I probably couldn't do it. I feel like the stories find me and then they evolve.
I agree. Heart of the story. You described your books as carrying a heartbeat. I know that your Grandpa and Louie story was inspired deeply by family. I would think such a deep, heartfelt story. Was it difficult? I would have sat there and cried the whole time I was writing.
It was, and it still brings up a lot of emotion, but it was almost 10 years after my dad had passed, so I'd done a lot of healing, and
Mm.
it had turned that pain into a purpose. Felt that call to help other people that were going through it because I just kept hearing the same stories over and over that people felt so alone and isolated in this going through this. Even though it's dementia, dementia is a mental health journey, and that can be tough when you're not prepared how to handle it, don't expect it, you've never dealt with it. To see the changes in that person, it's hard for an adult to comprehend. To see the look on my children's faces when they were trying to process it, it really became like a healing for me to do it. But
Mhm.
now I get a lot of people when they reach back to me about having read the book, they say that it made them cry. And it always like pulls on my heart a little bit because they're happy tears or tears that someone's understood. But to be an emotional tearjerker like that is tough.
Jennifer, I wanted to talk to you about Fully Rely on God. Do you feel like the book that we were just talking about, Grandpa and Louie, writing about Fully Rely on God is another heartfelt? You are such a deep person. I feel like you
Thank you.
really write from the heart. Tell us a little bit about that story and how it came about.
That really segues right great from the Grandpa and Louie. So I wrote this book, Grandpa and Louie, and I just felt like really I was called to do something else with writing. Like I just felt, and it felt like urgent and important, and I just was really confused on what to do with it. Like I said, I feel like the books find me. My daughter goes to Catholic school, and I went in to just make small talk with one of the nuns there. She's 90 years old and always just like such a joy for the kids. And I just went in to say hi, and we started chatting about things. And this came up, like this feeling I was having. It was almost like an anxious feeling that I should be doing something. And her motto was frog. I can't take credit for that. She would have a lot of little frogs in her office, or keep a frog in her pocket whenever a kid was feeling like anxious about a test.
Oh,
And she handed me a frog and said, "Frog it." And I was like,
oh,
okay. So that really, fully rely on God. And she had talked about her story a little bit of becoming a nun and discerning that.
oh.
And I was like, okay, so I didn't really get this amazing answer that I was expecting, but I got such an amazing answer that it became part of my day, frog it, but still not thinking that was going to be a story or a book. And then I had wanted to work with the illustrator for that. Her name is Jess Burcham. And I was also going to work with Lauren Sparks at the same time. I had both of them kind of like in the back burner for my next book. So Jess contacted me that she had a spot, and I was still waiting on Lauren. I think Lauren was working on your book. We could get to that. She had been waitlisted with her. And it just felt like I needed a story because I wanted to work with her so badly.
Mhm.
And when I kept thinking, what could my next book be? Because the elephant was in my pocket, but that felt like it was right with Lauren. So I said frog. And then sharing sister's story with the world just felt like the right thing to do. It's such an important message for kids and adults. And I just wanted to put it out there for her.
That's wonderful. And do you have a picture of the nun in your book that
I do.
prompted that? I love that you intertwined her and brought her in, because that's what touched me about that book, Jennifer, when I first read it.
It's an illustration, which I thought was even
Oh,
more, like, touching because
yes.
I just thought the illustrator captured her so beautifully and kind of put her in. Thank you.
My grandkids also go to a Catholic school, and it's so interesting the difference of the dynamic. That nun must touch so many hearts and so many people with just something as simple that the kids can connect to. Frog.
I think what makes that so powerful is that she is such a down to earth person with the children, and they can see she has this joyous faith about her. She
Mm.
accepts whatever is coming, comes from God, and she serves these children every day in and day out. And I think that's what makes it so special for her and for the children and the adults, just that joyous faith of accepting.
I know you do school visits, Jennifer. Do you do other schools?
With my book, The Empathetic Elephant, that's the only one that I could really do in public schools. So my faith-based books have to be in faith-based schools, Christian and Catholic. I've done a little bit of both, but it has like narrowed my school base there. I do have the Empathetic Elephant for public schools.
That's an interesting tip for authors for their books that are faith based. They need to present it as that when they're interviewing or showing that they have a book.
That's how it is in my state. I don't know if it's everywhere. I also had someone tell me with Grandpa and Louie, I put a Bible verse in the beginning that kind of was meaningful to me and my dad, my family. And I had someone who was a writer say, you probably want to take that out because some people might not buy the book or want the book because of that. I really had to deal with that and try to figure out, like, do I stay true to what I want to put in the book, or do I take that out to appeal to a wider range of people? And I decided to stay true to what felt right for me.
Good.
But it was good advice because it is true. Especially with these two books, I've seen that it can limit your audience, but you're going for more of a niche audience at that point.
Let's talk about our books that are in common. I love The Empathetic Elephant, and I absolutely love Lauren's illustration. Share with me a little bit about why you wrote that book. Is there a backstory to that, and why you chose Lauren?
So that backstory was that, my daughter was in school and friendships were evolving. And you're hearing so many things at the time about mental health. And I just thought, like, we need to get back to basics of just
Mhm,
empathy for
mhm.
what people are going through. And so that story was born of that. And the elephant goes through the jungle and meets animals that just don't have time for her. And she decides to meet them where they're at. And then at doing that, she learns that they're all dealing with their own issues. So sometimes as friendships evolve and change, it's not always about that you or that person. It can be about what the other person is dealing with.
Tell my husband often, the word empathy, I think it's a lost word that they don't really take that word to heart. People are so quick to anger and they're not thinking, what is that person going through? If somebody snaps at you, maybe it's not about you that they're angry with, it's that they're having a bad day. And that's what
Exactly.
I love about the title of that book. It couldn't be more appropriate. My book, Who's New at Lou's Zoo, I feel like they're similar, but they're not. Yours is very soft, where I feel like my book is, I want to say, stronger colors.
Yes,
That show
I
us
see
your
that
book.
too. Her style, like you said, it's very different, but it's also she has this way of like portraying the characters in such a cute and funny way. Oh, I didn't find my giraffe.
Of the hippo.
Yeah, the hippo is one of my favorite, the zebra. I think what I find
Cute.
with the connections I make here, every illustrator fits every book. And Lauren was perfect for this book. And then it led for somehow, I don't know how we connected, realizing we had the same illustrator, but at some point
Yes.
she connected us. And the fact that she lives where she lives and she would send me videos of the animals, it just all seems to always come full circle for me.
It really does. And Lauren is wonderful to work with. You shared before we started this video that she's out traveling. So I'm not sure if she's taking any more contracts for illustrating. She's been wonderful to work with. And I really think that's the importance of us as authors looking for those illustrators that you connect with. So often you find people, you like their style, and then you ask for samples. I always ask for a couple of samples, even if you have to pay for them. Lauren, we hopped on a call. I'm sure you can contest to this, Jennifer. You talk, you just automatically connect. And I told her about what I was looking for. She just nailed it the first time around. That's so special when you find that relationship with your illustrator.
Yes, I think that each illustrator for me has had a strong connection with the book, and I've made a strong connection with them. Like it's kind of goes hand in hand. Like you feel like you can work with them well, but then when they sit down to actually do the illustrations, you feel like there's just it was right. There's a
Yes.
connection there for whatever reason. Like Lauren's is that she lives in Africa, and so that makes it that much more special.
Yes. And for those listeners out there, Jennifer and I hope one day we can get to South Africa to not only meet Lauren, but see those animals in our book, our books, the actual animals of the images that Lauren creates. Share a little bit about what self publishing has taught you. You have four beautiful books, Jennifer.
Thank you.
For those people out there listening that are thinking about writing, what was your favorite thing about being a self published author? Share with us how you feel about being self published.
It's definitely been an evolution. And the first one I just wrote, just for my family and then just to help a small group of people. But what I've loved most about is the connections I've made. Each
Mhm.
book has a different group of readers and I have connections to them in different ways. Other authors like yourself and people that we've met along the way. I find the indie authors to be so supportive. Like it's almost like a group of friends that I've made from this. So I think the connection has been huge for me. I enjoy that. Even though we're online, I feel like I could sit down and have coffee with you any day. Like if we do meet up in Africa, it would just be so easy. Just because we've gone through this together and we share information and we help each other. And I think that's huge. I think that's what really makes those relationships work is that both people are willing to put that out there and say, well, this is what worked for me and this illustrator did well for me. We kind of do it to have to help ourselves and you kind of have to protect each other.
Yes.
I've found that there are a lot of times out there when it's not the right fit for one reason or another. So it's good to kind of weed that out. But I think the hardest part for me, honestly, has been marketing the books.
Oh,
I love reading. I love writing them. I love sharing the message. I was telling you before with social media, I struggle to get out there and try to sell the book. So that's where I struggle with. And that's just a me thing. Some people thrive with that. That's just me. I struggle.
that is the number one answer that everybody says,
Oh,
that
interesting.
marketing, and maybe we need to do more conversation. I'd love to have you come back and share
Sure.
more about specifically what you do. Ron, Susie from United Tales, fabulous interviews of all that they do. And it's about watching what our author friends and talking that out. That's what I love about this podcast is that we all have that same struggle. And for somebody thinking about writing, It's not just one thing that you can give them a piece of advice, or it's not just one a difficulty. It's everything along the way, whether you're writing that manuscript, whether you're editing it, whether you're going through the illustrations and the cost of illustrations.
Yes.
It's not for the faint of heart.
It's not. I do have a lot of people come to me and say, "I wanna write a book," and I do believe if there is a story on your heart, you should get it out in the world somehow if you can make that happen, and I think there are a lot of different ways to make it happen, but to share your story, if there's a story on your heart, I think is very important.
I agree. Our next question is talks about the ripple effect. Share about maybe a moment when you went to a school, when you shared a book, and a special moment that you had, maybe a student or a teacher came up to you and said, "Oh, really needed to hear that today." I'm sure you've had that moment.
I have, and each book has it's been different. I think that my first recognition of the impact of the ripple was Grandpa and Louie, because before I wrote the book, I attend a lot of awareness walks for Lewy body dementia.
Mm.
So those people that are going through it and feel like there's a story that speaks to the story that they're dealing with when they feel so isolated and alone, there's always like a huge connection there. And that's very humbling because it's just a children's book, but I told you I'll have people that say it made me cry, it made me feel better, it just all the emotions. And then each book, I don't know if I mentioned, like Love Like Jesus is based on a family member that had Down syndrome. So each book has the empathetic elephant is a circumstance that my daughter went through, and Frog is sister. So each book does have that ripple effect where there's a little bit of like awareness, and whether it's faith, whether it's disability, advocating for disability, mental health. So I hope that somewhere, somehow, one of my stories will really touch more than one or two people and make a difference.
Yes, that's what we hope. I when I go to farmers markets, I've kind of pulled back on farmers markets a bit because it's that overwhelming feeling of constant market, market, market.
Mm.
And but I love going to school visits and farmers markets because that's when you get the feedback. I've had so many kids come up to me at farmers markets that said, "I've seen that book." And I say, "Where have you seen it at?" And they'll say, "It's in my library. It's in my classroom. It's a teacher shared it." And that's what makes you feel like, oh my gosh, it's really out there in the world.
Yes.
That's the whole concept of marketing. You never know where it's going to turn up.
And it can lead to a lot. I did have that happen with Frog. I had someone call me about speaking at a church, which will be my first speaking engagement. But someone had given her the book. Her daughter was trying to conceive. And she gave her daughter the book and said, "What? I feel like this message is for you. Just like rely on God. It'll happen when it's supposed to happen." And eventually her daughter had a baby. And so she thought of me when they were looking for this women's conference. So that definitely was a full circle moment for me.
I got chills when you were telling that story. That is so
Yeah.
special that it touches uh, a person that is not able to bear children. You never know how those particular stories, you think it's only going to touch a child. It doesn't. I've had teachers come up to me and say, "Oh, I love that story. I want to have it in my classroom library."
That is it's very rewarding when you feel it like that, when you feel
It
that.
is. Well, let's do this lightning round. This is
Okay, this
kind
looks
of
fun.
just for fun. I wanted to try
Okay.
it out. You can give me a simple answer. You've got plenty of time, so don't feel like you have to rush through them. Okay, so first
Okay.
question is favorite children's book growing up? What was that?
Green eggs and ham.
You said that so quick. I had to
Yeah, I
really.
loved yeah, that's the first book I really remember, like, being wowed by. I loved it as a kid.
Ah,
Yeah.
well, I love all Dr. Seuss books. Okay, I think I know this answer with you. Tea, coffee, or something else when you are writing?
Definitely coffee,
Oh,
and now I've learned about iced coffee, which, all my years couldn't understand why people loved iced coffee, and now I'm addicted. So, coffee, and then in the afternoon is an iced coffee.
yes, I agree. Just for those people that don't know Jennifer and I feel like there's a link there somehow We think alike. We both love coffee. She was fussing before we went on camera about her book and am I okay? And I do the same thing. I go check
Mhm.
my hair. I got to put lipstick on before I go and I'm always looking at what's behind me. So I feel like we're some sort of sister
Tethered souls.
kindred
For
souls.
sure.
That's right. I love that.
Yes.
Dream setting for your next book signing. I love this because I could think of all different things that I could do.
So many, but why don't we go to Africa together? We always talk about that
Yes.
and meet up with Lauren and get our book signed there. That would be
Oh,
so wonderful.
oh, that would be an
Like a
absolute
safari background. Yeah, that would be
yeah, that
great.
would be an can you imagine what that would look like on
Oh, that would
social
be so much
media?
fun.
So much fun. If you could co-author a book with anyone, living or gone, who would it be? This is hard.
I was gonna say this is a tough one, and there are so many. Dr. Seuss, of course, one of my all-time favorites because those are the books I grew up on. And then Charles Mackey,
I haven't heard that one.
The
Okay.
Horse, the Boy, and the Mole.
Yes, okay.
Yes, I love the message in his book. It's a children's book that I think every adult should read. I would love to write with him. Especially if you are looking to illustrate a book, it shows you that his illustrations are so simple. They're like line drawings, but it shows you that you can find a way to like get your story across and the illustrations play such an important part of it, but they don't have to be exactly what you think they have to be. Like they can be there's so many ways around it. In Grandpa Lewy, I did a lot of pencil drawings. My illustrator there, her name was Tracy Arvidsson, but to show when he was not in a like
Oh,
lucid moment. So those drawings are black and white where others are color. So
I
sometimes you have
love
to think
that.
outside of the box. And I think Charles Mackey did that, but the message of his stories are just amazing. So good.
I love that you have colored illustrations and pencil sketches for when that person wasn't quite there. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining me on my podcast. Share with the listeners where they can find you, your website, and your books.
Thank you so much for having me, JoAnn. It's really been a pleasure chatting with you. My website is JennRandazzo.com, and I can be found on social media at Jen Randazzo Author. And Amazon, if you put Jennifer Randazzo into the search bar, all of my books will come up, or you can find them by title.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks again, Jennifer. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. If you found this helpful, follow Beyond the Book with JoAnn Dickinson on Spotify and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more tips and inside conversations with authors, illustrators, and creators. If you're an author who's learned something the hard way, I'd love to hear your story. You might help someone else. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.